Today we're going to start a new song in your Piano Safari book. It's on page 17 and it's called Giocoso and it's by Zerny. And Giocoso is an Italian word that means lively, joyous, and playful. So this is kind of a fun, upbeat sort of sounding song. And it's written by a really famous teacher who's actually, in a sense, you are piano descended from. So he taught someone who taught someone who taught someone who taught someone who taught me who taught you. So that's kind of fun. And I believe Zerny was actually taught by Beethoven. So there you go. You can go all the way back to Beethoven with your piano lineage. So I'm going to start off by playing it for you. You can get out your music, follow along. Feel free to tap with the beat or tap the rhythm as you listen. And then a repeat. I'm just going to skip for now. A lot of quick moving fingers. Definitely sounds very brilliant, like you've got some good piano technique to play it. So before we try it on the piano, we're going to mark it up. So notice how both hands are playing in the treble clef. It is a duet, so this partner would be playing on the higher end of the piano, and the secondo part would be played on the lower end of the piano. So both hands on treble clef, and then we're going to mark our starting notes, or starting notes and chords. So in the right hand we've got treble C to start, and in the left hand we've got a C chord. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is figure out the intervals with you. Then we're going to identify the left hand chords and label those. You can grab a highlighter. You can mark the skips and the fourths if you like. I definitely will do both for you, so I'm going to use yellow for skips. Sorry, you probably can't see that. And we'll go for green for fourths. Okay, starting with the yellow, so the skips. And just looking at the right hand for now. See if I can make my line a little bit narrower. So it looks a little neater. There we go. A lot of repetition in this song, as you can probably see. You start to kind of figure out the patterns of where the skips tend to be. In fact, I would say, although there aren't any lines that are exactly identical, there's a lot of passages that are definitely identical to each other. Okay, so that is it for skips, at least in the right hand. Switching over to fourths. Not as many of those, it seems. All right, only the one, I think. That's it. Okay, now for marking the chords. So the chords in the left hand use some inversions. So in order to figure out the names of the chords, we are going to have to rearrange them into root position. The first two chords are in root position and they're C chords. The way we can tell they're in root position is because they're made entirely out of skipping notes. Skip, skip, skip. Chords in inversions have a fourth in them, either at the top of the chord or at the bottom. Now, this chord right here has a fourth at the top, so therefore it is in an inversion. If we figure out what the notes are, so that top note, I know it's a G, second note is a D, and third note is a B. There's two ways I could go to try to figure out what it is in root position. So I could try going down in inversion, so taking the G from the top and putting it on the bottom. I could also try going up, taking the B from the bottom and putting it at the top of the chord. But as you can probably see from the tiny piano in the corner of your screen, going down is what puts it into root position, and the way I can tell is because it's made entirely out of skips when I do that. So it's actually GBD, Jibbity. Knowing your skips alphabet is really handy for figuring out root position as well, because you can do it without even going to the piano. For example, if you know that this chord is B, D, G, and you know that the skips alphabet is Jibbity, then you can rearrange it into root position just using letters without even going to the keyboard. So this is a G major chord, as you probably know, and it is in an inversion, so we call it a slash chord. We say G slash, and then we put the bottom note. So G slash B, so B is on the bottom. And then the next chord is a C chord. Now, if you remember your primary chords from the key of C, we have 3 of them. I'll write them at the top as a review. We have our 1, our 4, and our 5 in Roman numerals there. So I is 1, oops. IV is 4, and 5 is a V, there we go. We also have 5-7, which is our 5-7 chord, which is where we add an extra note. Instead of just having, say, a simple major triad, we add the 7th to it as a little bit more bite, you might say. Now, in the key of C, the chords 1, 4, 5, and 5-7 are C, because C is the first note of our scale, F, because F is the 4th note of the scale, G, because G is the 5th note, and then G7. So those are going to be the only chords we encounter in this song. So that might help us as well as we're trying to figure out what the names of the chords are, especially when they're in inversions. Okay, so dropping down to line 2. Looks like it does something fairly similar. We start off with 2 C chords, end with the C chord, just contrast it in the middle with something else. Now you might already recognize what this chord is, but let's just kind of figure it out using the system we talked about. So it's got a B, an F, and a G in it. It's actually missing a note to be a complete chord, but we're allowed to do this sometimes. If we rearrange it in order of skips, it would be G, B, D, which is missing, and then F would come after. Jibbity F. A lot of times we leave the D out of this chord just because it makes it easier to play and it doesn't change the sound very much. This is a G7 chord, or our 5-7 in the key of C, because it's a G chord with an F added in. Or in fact, you could even say the F is substituted for the D. So we're going to call this one G7, and again, it is in an inversion, and we've got B on the bottom. So G7/B. All right, line 3. This chord is definitely not a C chord, but it looks familiar. It looks like this one up here. So we've got a G on the top, B and D, another G chord with a B on the bottom. That's in first inversion, by the way. Whenever you have the root note of the chord at the top, that means it's in first inversion. Then we're back to a C major chord in root position, another G/B chord, and then C major again. And then it looks like we finish it off with something similar to line 2. So we've got 2 C chords, and then the G7/B, we've got 2 of them in half notes instead of 1 in a whole note, but it's the same chord, and then finishing with C. So let's try playing. Now that we've got it all marked, we're going to try playing just the left hand to practice the chords. Then we'll come back and practice the rhythm of the right hand and then give the right hand a try. Your goal this week is just to learn it one hand at a time. 1, 2, ready, go. C, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. G/B, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. G7/B. And C, 2, 3, 4. G/B, 3, 4. C, 2, 3. G/B, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, for the left hand. Now we're going to head back to the music once again, and this time focusing in on the rhythm. So we're just going to tap the rhythm of the right hand. If you did decide to try it hands together, I would recommend doing two-handed rhythm tapping for this before doing it hands together, in which case you might also want to draw in the together lines at the beginning of each measure. But I'm not going to show you too much about that because our goal is just to get it hands separately. You can always go further if you want though. Okay, so I'm going to tap the rhythm on my piano here. You can find something hard to tap on. I feel like that's not the best spot. Maybe I can tap somewhere louder. That's a little better. Okay, so I'm going to point with one hand and tap with the other, and I want you to follow along with me. So together we're going to say the ta's and the TT's, and we're going to tap the rhythm. 1, 2, ready, go. T, 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 ta, ta. Ooh, before we keep going, sorry, just noticed that's a Zechariah zebra rhythm. Might be helpful to say Zechariah zebras in this song just because it looks like pretty much every rhythm is either a Zechariah zebra or a Zechariah Z or a Zechariah Zechariah. And that's pretty much like everything in the right hand. So let's change the words. We're going to do Zechariahs instead. Okay. 1, 2, ready, go. Zechariah zebra, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah Z. Zechariah, Zechariah, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah, Zechariah, Zechariah Z. Zechariah, Zechariah, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah, Zechariah, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah, 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 Zechariah Z. Whew. Okay, so that's it for the rhythm in the right hand. The last thing you need to watch out for is just the slurs and the staccatos. So pretty much every time we do a zebra, that's staccato. Everything else appears to be legato. Okay, here it is, just the right hand. I'm just going to close that blind. It looks pretty bad on the piano. That still doesn't look great, but it's a little bit better. All right, so we're starting with right hand 1 on treble C. Move the camera up a little bit better so you can see that. 1, 2, ready, go. Zechariah zebra, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah Z. Zechariah, Zechariah, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah, Zechariah, Zechariah Z. Zechariah, 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 Zechariah zebra, Zechariah, Zechariah, Zechariah zebra, Zechariah, 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 Zechariah Z. All right, so have fun with that. Try it with just hands separately, and then, like I said before, if you want to try it hands together, do the two-handed rhythm tapping with the togethers, and just go really nice and slow, and make sure that you're not forgetting your rhythm when you do it together.